Hey, Sami here. I'm not your typical job counselor. I work remote and I travel the world as I kickstart careers. This is raw, real, and on the... Hey, I'm Sami here, and this is the Career Kickstart Show, and I am super excited to have David Di Giorgio on my show. He is the Unapologetic Speaking Coach, and now I know this because I have worked with him before, because you may not believe this, but I was a shy, retiring little violet, when I was a young lass, and it's taken a lot for me to be, unapologetic enough to start my own podcast and all that good stuff. David is fantastic, and he does every day. Like, I see something new that he's coming out with. So I will let him introduce himself and tell you all about what it is to be an unapologetic speaking coach.
Thank you so much, Sami. Thanks for having me on the show. Great to be here with all of your listeners and you. And what about me? Gosh. So the basic background is this. I started as a composer and a musical director. And so I've worked with performers, presenters, and speakers my entire life, and specifically in musical theater for a long time. So I always like to joke nowadays that I work with people speaking with actual language and not speaking lyrics or singing lyrics. It's a lot easier because the training ground of working with singing and trying to create standing ovations, I mean, if you've ever read any lyrics lately, they're pretty abstract and the ideas are very abstract and esoteric. And so working with language is a cinch in comparison. So I also, as I was a theater producer, I also was a head of a music department for 10 years in a high school. And at the same time, I also owned a yoga studio. So I like to take the best of the performance world and production and education and business and transformation and put that all together to package it up in, well, what we call now unapologetic speaking. And what is that exactly? Well, it's kind of like what you just said in the beginning is when you introduced yourself and your background, just showing up as you, just showing up completely relaxed in your element, shining your light, or as I like to say, living out your miracle, because there's those people you meet at a party or you go to an event or something, and these people that are just super bright lights and you want to be near them. It almost is irrelevant what they say, but you're like, you fanboy or fangirl over them. They have that it factor. And in my experience and my observation of the world and performance and speaking and presenters, the it factor truly is that they're unapologetically themselves and unapologetic in the vision that they have of themselves and for the rest of the world.
I love that. And what for me drew me to your work and to your group is the fact that for entrepreneurs nowadays, you have to be able to show up as yourself. You have to be able to be unapologetic in a lot of ways so you can actually attract clients that you're going to resonate with, and it's difficult. Like, there's so much out there that you have to kind of filter through so you can find that, unapologeticness.
Yeah. And I love that you just mentioned too, in the whole entrepreneurship world, one of the reasons that I landed on this whole idea of being unapologetic specifically relates to the amount of content and the amount of gurus and, people out there telling you in the online space, especially, how to create success online. And frankly, so my story is that I immigrated a couple of years ago from Canada to the United States, and I started from zero. And when I did that, I basically became a student and I started listening to everything, and I bought all the programs and I checked out all the webinars. And frankly, Sami, none of it worked. It didn't work for me because I was trying to bring to life someone else's idea. Now, for a long time in my brand, I was using this word unforgettable because I thought, well, people want to be unforgettable. The reality is that was pretty lukewarm with most people. The moment I started using the word unapologetic, everything changed in my business and my life. You see, because Unapologetic is not just my brand. Unapologetic is who I declare to myself every day, multiple times a day, that I need to be in order to create the impact that I want on the world. So, because in my regular life, I am not unapologetic. See, I've spent my whole life apologizing for everything. One, because I'm Canadian, and we say sorry for everything. and and two, because of just the history in my life and how I grew up in my family and the situations that happened, I just have spent my entire life apologizing for everything. And I came to a point in my life where I said to myself, what would it look like if I became unapologetic? Well, I started to step into my power, into my true leadership, and everything just started working from there. And truly, when I started to speak up, and so the way I deliver this idea is by inspiring other people like you and so many others to speak, because the reality is we arrived in this world as speakers. We speak. We've spoken our whole lives. So this idea that all of a sudden now you're going to become a speaker, in quotes, is absolutely preposterous to me. We've been speaking our whole lives. And every time you're having a conversation with someone, whether it's in the corporate world or the tech world or the science world or anywhere, it doesn't matter, the entrepreneurship, every conversation is an enrollment conversation, because you want people to respond and react to you. You want people to join you at the movie, to go to dinner with you, to be your boyfriend or girlfriend, to whatever the case may be. Every conversation is an enrollment conversation. And if you are a good communicator, an excellent speaker, people do what you want them to. Now, more importantly, when you're in integrity as a speaker and communicator, people will do what you want for them. When your vision is so big that it includes them and their well-being in it. If that choice happens to be, well, hey, I want to follow you and learn from you, or whatever the case may be, well, that's an extra bonus. But what you're actually doing is taking a stand for other people to be unapologetic, to be unstoppable, to be truly their full selves. And it's such a gift to be able to speak one-on-one. And I always tell people, even if you're standing in front of 100,000 people, the reality is only one person at a time is going to hear you. So you're always talking to one person at a time.
Oh, I love that. And I love how you're talking about helping people find their voice, which I find as a career specialist is one of the most challenging aspects of my job. Some people think, oh, it's finding the jobs or things like that. No, it's being able to not just have the self-awareness to know what you want, what you're unapologetic for, in your voice. It's using that in the interview and networking when you're presenting a project. So this level of attention to communication, to your communication style, is so key for your career. If you could, would you talk about, some, quick ways that people can add, some more gravitas to their public speaking, even if it's just doing a PowerPoint presentation at work?
Yeah. Yeah, so I love this question, and it's so simple. Stop asking yourself, what am I going to say? Am I going to be good enough? Am I going to forget? Am I going to impress? Am I going to deliver value? Instead, right before you speak, and as you're designing a presentation, ask yourself this: who do I need to be for this audience? Who do I need to be? Because that puts you into being, rather than chasing behind this idea of am I good enough and measuring yourself against value. When you ask who you need to be, now you're delivering from vision. And the answers that you'll come up with are, I need to be confident. I need to be sure. I need to be a leader. I need to be empowering, right? And those words put you automatically into your power, and they don't make it about the words, because as ridiculous as this may sound, I say this to my clients all the time, no one actually takes action. And in many cases, they don't care what you're saying. They take action or are inspired by who you are being. And when who you're being and what you're saying are in congruence, that's when you create magic. So just ask yourself, who do I need to be when I'm putting this presentation on, when I'm doing this pitch, when I'm at this interview? Who do I need to be right now for the people sitting in front of me, or the one person at a time sitting in front of me? And that will change everything, the way you show up as a speaker in that moment.
Oh, I love that. There's something that is profound about that, because once you get into that being mode, it's something where you also are taking care of the body language, the confidence. Those are things that, like, body language is such a big, part of communication, that if you can really just like get that feeling and project, I guess the vibe, people are
Right.
more likely to like go along with you. It doesn't matter if you've just done a spirited defense on why the office should go out for Indian food for, the next offsite
Right.
meeting,
Right.
if you got enough passion, people are like, oh my God, I could use some naan right now. Oh, great idea.
Right. And it's so interesting because very well in your space, and me. So I learned this in theater, sitting on the other side of the table, auditioning people for years and years and years. What I started to notice was often, 9.9 times out of 10, we didn't go with the person who was the most talented necessarily. It all had to do with, do we want to work with that person? And that came down to that X factor, it factor. Because if you were a great performer, but a pain in the butt or nasty at the audition, we don't want to work with you. And same thing, like if you want to go out for naan for the next, lunch with your colleagues, well, maybe if they keep saying no, I'm pretty sure it has nothing to do with the Indian food. It has more to do with how you're showing up for them and for yourself.
No, that is, and that is a key point in career development that people don't get, is that you have to really show up, because nobody else is going to show up for your dream. You're the only one who really has the invested interest. And even if somebody did, what are they going to do? Take you to like the interview, or take you to like the conference and just kind of like move your arms and mouth? Like, that's just not how it's going to go. You have to figure it out on your own. But we all know that getting better with speaking does take, practice. What are some ways that people can maybe practice their public speaking in a way that can improve their career?
Yeah, so there's a few easy things to do. One is, first, stop calling it public speaking. Because unless you're in a closet talking alone, I mean, it's always public speaking. Always. So it's just speaking. Now, when you approach speaking, every time you speak, imagine that it is going to be for keeps, for real. Even having a one-on-one conversation with your favorite person or your best friend, what would it look like for you to today start speaking from more vision, from more purpose, to choose your words and your way of being, to choose who you're going to be in every conversation? That's the best way to practice, is every day, so that when you stand up on a stage, or you're doing a presentation or pitching or being interviewed, all of a sudden it's not something different, it's who you are all the time. And then you just have to do more of what you do, right? So I always tell people, what do you love? What do you love to talk about? What do you love to be? Do that and do more of it. And that's honestly the easiest way to practice public speaking. Now, the other thing is to realize, if you are speaking and doing a presentation, it does take practice and rehearsal. And those are two very different things. Practice is where you break it down and you're in the memorizing phase and testing out different things and figuring out, does this story work the best way here? Or does presenting the data this way work best this way? That's practice. Rehearsal is when you try to recreate the environment in which you are going to present this thing, whatever it is, from beginning to end. Standing up, sitting down, whatever it is. If there's a presentation you're clicking through, you practice and rehearse every aspect of it. And a lot of people make that mistake. So what we end up seeing in presentations oftentimes is people practicing or rehearsing on the stage rather than delivering their best, their best performance, essentially.
Okay. No, that's some good advice. And what I like about that is it's something that people can just like fit into. And I like the distinction between practice and rehearsal, because until you pointed out, I had never really thought of it that way.
Yeah.
Well, David, what I am so excited about, having you on the show is the fact that I think that people can take all of the things that you have said, and like tomorrow at work, they can make it work. They can really think about, how they're going to show up. And just for the listeners to know, I do have resources on journaling prompts, career clarity, and those sort of things. So if you need to kind of like, get your mind around it, because Lord knows self-awareness takes a while. You can definitely find those resources at careerkickstartacademy.com. Now, David, you have been fantastic. We're getting towards the end of the interview, and I really want everyone who's listening to be able to find you on, the web. And if you could just talk about the next thing that you're doing. You're doing so much. I mean, we haven't even talked about your Thought Leaders Network. You have so much going on, but let everybody know where they can just connect with you.
Yeah, super easy at delivervision.com. That's delivervision.com. You can connect with me on all my platforms. You can also send me a message there if you want to learn more about something that I'm up to, or if you want to just connect and ask a couple questions about speaking or your next presentation. I'm always loving connecting with amazing people who are up to something big. And it's just super, super simple. Delivervision.com. I'd love to connect.
Awesome, David. That is fantastic. And for everybody who is curious, the group I'm talking about is a membership community, and people can find out more about it when they talk to you. I really feel like it's a great value for anybody who, whether or not they are just a careerist or they're an entrepreneur. For me, I've gotten a lot out of it. It's the Unapologetic Speakers Community. But I do want to thank you again, David, and thank everybody for listening. This is the Career Kickstart Show.
Find something cool at cool.careerkickstartacademy.com.